I ran into another guy that was doing exactly what I was doing. You know, you met him. He's Mike Jones. Yep.
You know, just for pitching a tent, I'm getting death threats.
A couple weeks ago, I kind of threatened to set myself on fire on the plaza just to get some attention, national attention.
And sound. This is Love by as the record play. Love by.
Hi there, folks. Welcome back to Us As We Are. I'm Keegan Van Hook. In this episode, we're bringing you 3 interviews out of the Housing Now / Free Sleep movement. First, we're going to talk to Mike Jones, a new character involved in the movement, and he explains his reasons for getting involved and why he decided to change his sleeping style to be the way it is now. After that, we're going to talk to one of Mike's supporters who explains, in her own words, what she thinks is wrong with Ashland's current economic and class setup. A little bit later, a few days later in fact, we talk to Joseph Gibson, who provides us some more context on Mike's involvement and explains his experiences from the past few weeks, as well as reflects on the entire Housing Now movement as it's been and as it is now. Without further ado, here's Mike Jones. Okay, Mike Jones, you have made yourself known to the town of Ashland, but why don't you just introduce yourself for our viewers?
Hi, my name's Michael Jones. I've been living in Medford and Ashland for 27 years, and I love this town. I love this state. I love Oregon, but the things that the police have been doing to people have been outrageous and ongoing. And that's why we're pitching tents in the city, right in public space and public view, to protest against the right to sleep. Beyond that, what I've dealt with personally from the police is not only getting, run out of where you're sleeping, but getting trespassed permanently from the establishment where you're sleeping at, which is out of view and out of sight, which is what I always like to keep it. Trespass for life from the establishment, go to jail, get all your stuff taken, and have to go and get your stuff back. And it's just an ongoing thing. It's constant trespassing charges for sleeping. And that's what we're protesting. We're protesting the right to sleep. I had a tent pitched in Triangle Park, okay? And instead of getting a trespassing charge, they gave me a drinking in public charge for a beer inside my tent, okay? And it was all closed up in the park, and the cop was like, it was Officer Carpenter, by the way. He said, "What are you doing in the tent?" And I said, "I'm drinking a beer and smoking a bowl of weed, and I'm doing what, everybody else does in their household. They take their pills, they smoke, they drink, whatever. I wasn't out in public." He asked me to bring my beer, take my beer out of my tent and set it outside of my tent and leave it there. Then he gives me the drinking in public charge because the beer was out of my tent. Within 2 hours, I was told to move 50 feet. And I said, I'm going to move 50 feet. And Officer McLennan told me, "Mike, can you move a little bit farther than 50 feet? And I said, "Yeah, I'll move a little bit farther. And that's fine. I'll move out of the park, And he's like, "That's cool." So I drug my tent over out of the park, Triangle Park, right up there, to a spot that's not owned by any property or anything, any management, nothing. It's a sewer cap and a little patch of grass that I put my tent up. Within hours, a cop was on me again, giving me another citation, telling me to leave in the pouring rain. I told him I just had a grand mal seizure and I can't move. You know, I can't hardly stand up. I'm on disability, by the way. I'm not, you know, playing pity, but, you know, I'm on disability and I have seizures and sometimes I got to rest. And that's the whole point we're trying to get to is we can't rest. And that's what we're protesting is the right to sleep.
So Housing Now and Joseph Gibson had been doing this for a little bit before you started. What kind of inspired you to join them or start your own protest here?
I kind of started it on my own. I didn't know about Joe, and Joe thought that he's all, oh, are you doing this because of me? And I was like, no, I'm just doing this because of my right. And the Ninth Amendment, by the way, states, and I already mentioned this, but the Ninth Amendment states that you have a right and a safe and healthy spot to sleep every night. And that's the Ninth Amendment. Look it up on Google. Unfortunately, there's been people, I've been having people throwing beer bottles at me, threatening my life to stab me in my sleep. I'm not kidding. Dude, you know, because the community doesn't want us here, is what he said, you know. So, that, on top of that, I brush it off. I brush off the threats, you know, because it's not direct, you know. But that's the things that the homeless people have to deal with is not only the police, but civilians interacting with you in a unrespectful way, a disrespectful way, to say the least. I mean, a death threat. I mean, come on, you're gonna stab me in my sleep? I mean, you know, that's the threats I'm getting. You know, just for pitching a tent, I'm getting death threats. Besides being run out of every place every other day, I'd love to have an established space where there could be a community of tents or portable houses available to the homeless people.
So here in Ashland, they are seeking grant funding to try and build sort of what you're describing, some kind of an established area where people could go to sleep. What do you think of that?
I believe that's a wonderful answer, and there's plenty of land out here that's available, that's unused, that's either been burned by the fire or and is unused, and we can build a tent city like they have in Seattle. It's called Nicholsville, and they have portable houses, plywood houses they build that are miniature houses. There's constant security 24/7, and that's what we need around here is the same type of action. So I don't mean I'm not littering. I'm not doing anything wrong. I just have my tent pitched, and I'm trying to lay down, and I'm trying to rest. So I want to end it at that, bud.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you, man.
My good friend.
Well, first, how about you introduce yourself?
All right, I'll do that. Hi, my name is Laura Davis, and I'm a retired public school employee. I was an office manager at a local public school. Retired in July because I couldn't do that job and manage COVID stuff. So free time on my hands, and I started coming down to the plaza and serving coffee and food to anyone.
Anybody, everybody.
Who wanted coffee and food. And because I was doing it for free, they can't do anything about that. I mean, I had to follow public health, rules, and I did that to the best of my ability. But I just have gotten more and more knowledge and experience in talking to folks who have, are unhoused for whatever reason, either the fire or through, economic situations from COVID. And what I've seen in Ashland is that Ashland really only wants to provide support for the elderly and the wealthy. And if you are a child, if you are a teenager, if you are a young adult, if you're a middle-aged person, if you're an elder and you do not have money in this town, you are left high and dry.
Yep.
There is no service for anyone in this town except a senior center. We don't have a teen center, although we used to. That's what the Grove was until Ashland Parks and Rec took it over and ruined it, as far as I'm concerned. So our kids have nowhere to go, and I have firsthand experience of that because I was an office manager at a K through 8 school, and our kids, once they hit 6th grade, they can't go to the Y anymore. Where do they go? They go to the streets.
Yep.
And that's what I did when I was a teenager. I went and hung out at the bowling alley and dated 30-year-old men at the age of 13. So I don't know. I don't want our kids doing that. We don't have a teen center. We don't have a community center. It's all locked up behind a fence when right next door to it is some wealthy man's home that just got built over the last 2 years across from Lithia Park. Our citizens have nowhere to go in this town legally. People can't camp.
Right, man.
They
We
can't
go
sleep.
anywhere.
This town
It's getting old real quick.
is, and the thing is that's not a sustainable model. Old people die. Their kids take their money and get the heck out of town, and what's left? It's going to be a shell of a town. This town
Yeah,
is
it
ripe
will
and
be.
rotten. It's
Yep.
not green and growing. The wealthy have this noblesse oblige kind of attitude towards anyone who's in need. It's like, oh, let me help you. Let me give you what I think you need, instead of giving us what we do need and what we're asking for. And the ask is very simple, but yet they're going to commission another study, and they're going to have another meeting, and they're going to put out a poll, and they're going to ask people, what should we do about this issue? When they're not coming to the source. It's like that thing they're doing at the Super 8. You know, there's not one homeless person on the board of Aura that I know of. They didn't ask one homeless person, how do you feel about us doing this thing?
They
No
don't
one.
let
They're
anybody
not
know
talking
about
to
it.
the people that need the help.
They
They're
keep
just,
it
let us
secret.
do you a favor. And
They keep it secret. They don't let anybody know.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
So
crazy.
how
So
does
you know
anybody-
what? People are going to start just doing what they're going to do. If you tell people they can't hang out in the plaza and you try to push them out, they're going to push right back, and they're going to push back harder. I mean, at one point, a couple of weeks ago, I kind of threatened to set myself on fire on the plaza just to get some attention, national attention. How can a town of this size, with the economic situation they have, neglect the people that need the help the most?
That's the whole
It's beyond
point.
me. It's beyond me. And I'm just frustrated and tired of it. I'm housed. I have money. I'm comfortable. But I also have 10 other people living in my home right now. I've taken in a mom and 3 kids, 11, 9, and 7. We're all going to the beach today. They haven't seen the ocean ever. We're going to take them to the ocean. And I have a couple 3 other people that, you know, have jobs, but it's not enough to pay the rent for them.
I get $7.94
I'm fortunate.
a month.
You know, I have the ability to do that, but not everyone does. But I sure can't take on anyone else, so don't come over to my house, please. Yeah, I can just imagine that the water bill is going to be off the hook.
You know,
But I'll deal with that when that happens. Right now, what I know is that there's 10 people that would be sleeping on the streets or in the shelters that are sleeping in my home instead, and they're quite comfortable, and we're doing just fine.
I just want to add.
Why can't other people do that?
I just want to add, besides being homeless, I'm on disability. I've been on disability for 6 years. I'm schizophrenic, and I have grand mal seizures. I have seizures about every 2 weeks, whether I'm on medication or not. That's why I have to lay down and sleep. I have to. I can't keep tugging myself around all the time. I can't, dude. I'm a strong guy. I'm a good guy, but I can't do it. I have to lay down, and I'm on disability, and the fact that cops are treating people on disability, not just the homeless, but people on disability too, on top of being homeless. I mean, that's a double negative, and they still are doing, the same stuff, and that's all I wanted to add. I'm.
Well,
Thank you.
I gotta run though. I got kids to take to the beach.
Okay, thank you so much
Right,
for talking to me,
Good to see you.
and good meeting you. Okay, Joseph, you've been doing this for quite a while now. When did you start this again?
November 25th was the first night that we started the roaming encampment that we did for 8 or 9 days. Yep. So I've been doing this since then. And as I said before, I do take one night off every week or every other week. And go and find a safe place, a place where I feel safe and off the street where I can actually go and get a night's sleep. Just recently, though, I was able to get, I think it was like 5 days in a row off because I ran into another guy that was doing exactly what I was doing. And I from, you met him. He's Mike Jones. Yep.
How did he become involved? Was that you guys planning together, or did that come about separately?
So I was actually camped in front of the oil stop for 5 or 6 days. I was there, and I had people coming by letting me know, hey, there's this guy at Triangle Park. He's doing exactly what you're doing, da-da-da. And they're asking me exactly what you asked me. Do you know him? Da-da-da. Nope, don't know him at all. Didn't even know it was happening. When I was finally done with that, after the 5th or 6th night that I was there, and I was like, you know what? They're not going to give me a notice. I know people that literally came up, showed me their phone going, hey, look, I emailed about you. And nope, cops didn't respond. So I decided that I marked that off as now it's a free sleep zone, and that's the same thing that's happening right here is that I haven't been noticed. It's been more than 72 hours. I'm actually on my 5th night, I think. No, I've already done 5 nights. If I stayed here again tonight, it would be 6 nights. Got here Wednesday. It's now Monday. But yeah, so I heard about him, decided I was going to pack up anyways, went and talked to him, showed up at Triangle Park, parked my bike and trailer, and walked up to him. He unzipped his tent, and he's like, hey, man, da-da-da, and we introduced each other, and he's like, yeah, you should pop up a tent and come and join me and all this and that. And I'm like, I should join you. Okay, what are you doing? And so he explains that he's just sick and tired of being shoved from one place to another, that there's nowhere that he can, pop up a tent. And if he can't do it anywhere behind the scenes, he might as well just do it right here, right in front of you. Yep. That's the point where I really started laughing, and then I let him know what I was doing and the fact that I had been doing this since November 25th. I got him introduced to the Housing Now Ashland group, got him introduced to some of the people that are helping me keep going, doing my thing. I'm not doing this just all by myself. I do have a very big circle of friends and associates and other people that are helping me out. So I introduced him to that, and I took a few days off. There's almost no difference in reasoning. Why are we doing what we're doing? What we ended up doing, each one of us, going to a place and just setting up tent and being public and being very, very civil about it, making sure no trash, no other kind of things. This is about, putting up a tent. All of that is the same. We are completely different characters, different people. I don't drink, I don't do any drugs other than tobacco and marijuana and sugar. I do a lot of sugar. A lot of people don't realize it's a drug, but it is. He is an alcoholic, and he is to the point where within an hour or two of getting up, if he doesn't have his beer, he will be vomiting, and that leads really, really quickly to trembling and convulsions on the ground. So he has to drink at this point. So him being right in everyone's face is a different thing than what it is for me. He got a lot more threats. He got a lot more calls about other associated behavior. And in fact, his very first call was about him playing music on his cell phone. And so when I ran into him, not that day, but the day after that, I clued him in on Aiden Ellison and him being shot over music here in Ashland, Oregon. And I encouraged him to write up a sign that says, I love loud music, don't shoot. I've seen several of those signs. I actually have a picture of a very, very good car, a $20,000, $30,000 car that has that placard right in their front window. So it's very much a meme here. And the fact that the Ashland police actually responded to a drunk person's cell phone, that was belligerence beyond extreme, at least my point of view. And so he flew that sign. They stopped responding to that. They instead started to do what they should have done in the first place, which is give him his 24-hour notice. And they did do that.
Getting the 24-hour notices night after night, is that still kind of the status quo with this thing 3 months on? Is that still what's going on? And have the police done anything more than that? Or has it just been that?
Okay, so the first month and a half, we didn't get a single citation. It was just about the 24-hour notices. My behavior has not changed at all, but after that first month and a half, I started to get citations. I got one citation that was prohibited camping, and then it was obstruction of traffic. No, The first one was obstruction of traffic way and then littering because I refused to pick up the obstruction of traffic way sign, or citation. The next one was prohibited camping. And then after that, it was prohibited camping and obstruction of traffic way, passageway.
And what are like the actual consequences of those citations for you?
This is one where the police will not answer, and I haven't actually asked the courts because I already know. I've been here for many years. I already know exactly how it works out. It's at their discretion. So I don't show up to court. It is at their discretion whether they just go, okay, we're going to fine him and that's it. Or they're going to go, okay, well, we're going to fine him and give him a warrant for failure to appear in court. You know, he's going to have to come in and explain why he didn't come in. It's hit or miss. They've changed it over the years. You know, there are some years where you're almost guaranteed to get a bench warrant. And there are other times where they won't touch you or do anything. And that's why I kind of flaked off court the first 3 times, is that I want to see, are you going to give me a bench warrant over this? Is my adamant and absolute refusal to acknowledge that I don't need sleep going to be something that you do send people and cuff me? And so far, no, it's not. It's just been, I'm found guilty and it goes to collections. Yep. And for collections to get money out of me, this is still a laughable matter. Yeah.
So that, I guess, begs the question, like, do you feel like you've struck some kind of a balance almost? Like, you've been doing this now for so long, and it seems like you've been able to sustain a certain lifestyle by doing this. What does that say about homeless lifestyles in general? Like, if more people adopted the nomadic nature that you have, how do you think things might be different? Would there be any difference, or would there be just as much unfairness from police?
Well, okay, so being nomadic, like having a set up campsite, here you are 24 hours a day, endless and on end, unless you really do some work to hard pack the area and make it so that the constant continuous use is not a negative thing, then you end up with shitty encampments, right? So a nomadic encampment, something that you move every 2 or 3 days. This is something I was talking to Housing Now when we were first setting up and doing tents, is that I prefer not to be on lawn. You know, lawn is something that people have put time and effort into doing, and putting a tent, even something this small, on a lawn for 3 days is gonna change that little patch versus others. Now you're gonna make that person do a little bit more work to get their lawn back to the way it was. Even 3-4 days, that can make that much of a difference. Do this during the wintertime when we're doing all this, and the rains and the slush and everything else, you can turn a patch of lawn into mud, right? And it's not lawn that next spring. So the roaming encampment, that can actually be a good thing, but it's not gonna be a thing that most people can do. You know, when we talk about homelessness and I talk about home freeness, really 1 out of 20 homeless people out on the streets living outside of your residences, maybe, and I'm being optimistic, 1 out of 20 would be willing to lead or want to lead a nomadic lifestyle. So that kind of thing, doing what I'm doing, it's not a solution. It's not a solution at all. It's not even a solution for me. I need to take a break from this. So if you have to take a break from something, it's not a solution as far as life, you know?
Yeah, that'd be my next question, is like, how much longer do you think you want to keep doing this?
I have a 3-goal process. The first one is that we need to stop being criminal to homeless people. As long as I'm getting citations, as long as I'm getting notifications of any kind, as long as police can come and say, you can't do this, and I still don't have an option of what I can do, then that's being criminal, you know? And then we move on to the next step, which is to differentiate, to set that line between what is civil homelessness and what is uncivil homelessness. Because here in Ashland, and pretty much, I'd say well over half of America, you go to each individual city, county, state, whatever, well over half of it, you're gonna find that there is no civil way of being homeless, and that the targeting of sleep or the targeting of sitting or the targeting of lying down is targeted. And you're a human being and you have to do these things. So you can't be that entity living in the public domain and be civil. So we do. We need to come together and set this line that says, okay, here's how you can be without a residence and be civil about it.
Almost like making homelessness an official status?
Well, that leads into the third step, which is that home freeness is a legal and lawful lifestyle choice. You know, your ability to decide that you're going to live in a condo or an apartment or a house is just as much a decision as me saying I am going to sleep on earth each and every night. Your decision to own a piece of land is just as equivalent as me saying I will never own land. It's a choice. It's a legal and lawful choice.
So you would like that choice to be more legitimized under the law?
Yep. So when you're asking how long will I be doing this, I really do figure it will take about 10 years to get through Oregon Superior Court, to get the state of Oregon to acknowledge that home freeness is legal and lawful, or nomadic existence, or whatever the end result is.
So you're in it for the long haul?
I am in this for the long haul, and I've actually made connections with people in Medford about me going from here to Medford as the very next place to start working on. Yeah, because from what I'm hearing, they've really stepped up the game in Medford.
Yeah, that's another thing. Have you heard about what the plans are for the Greenway over the summer?
I'm hearing all sorts of different things. I do pay attention to various Facebook postings and whatnot. I pay attention to Channel 10 and other official organizations. I pay attention to independent media. But then again, I also pay attention to the actual city councilors and representatives here in this city that I talk to, you know, face to face, person to person, and the homeowners in this town and the business owners and the homeless people. So there's a lot of information out there if you really open yourself up to the wide variety of it. And everything I'm getting back is that Medford is stepping up against homeless people actively. The enforcement here in Ashland has been class-based for the last 10 years at least. You go around, you talk to citizenry about gentrification or what this town was like 20 years ago versus now, and it's a very hot topic. Very much so. Some people are completely for the fact that this is a much better town now, but the only betterment you have is in house value. On almost any other aspect that you look at, people are like, no, it's declining. I'm completely brain dead. I'm kind of irked at this whole situation. I do want to throw out my Joseph Gibson, looking for my rights at gmail.com. I've been throwing this out left and right, and literally the only person that has actually responded that has anything to do with anything other than, you know, a citizen is Julie Akins and a high school group. Yep.
And you're taking what kind of messages at that email address?
Anything dealing with the housing crisis in Ashland, Oregon, with how homeless people are being treated, and with any kind of solutions people have for either one of those two aspects. Also, any and all emails in regards to what I am doing. Anyone can email me corrective criticism. I've actually changed what my plan was at the very beginning quite a bit just in the talking, acting, and interacting with other people.
All right, we'll put that on screen. Joseph, I want to thank you for talking to me today, as always.
Yeah, happy travels.
Well, very interesting conversations, as always. If you've been following the series for a little while, you know that this Housing Now movement is something that we're paying a lot of attention to. So inevitably, we'll be back with another follow-up on this story in a couple of weeks, depending on what plays out. Before we go, I do of course want to mention that we have a Patreon page. So if you feel so inclined to support us, we would really appreciate it. For our members, we're doing a regular recap podcast where we cover the events on the show but discuss them from our perspective. We're recording another episode of that very soon, I promise. So if you feel like you want to check that out, please consider offering us your support on Patreon. With that, I've been Keegan Van Hook. This is Us As We Are, and we'll see you in the next one.
As always, a special thanks to our major supporters, Daniel Van Hook, Adam, and Amy E. Van Hook.